The river that steals your reflection. The river flows silently, reflecting only what it wants you to see. Those who approach feel the chill of something invisible, and their own image seems to hesitate in the water. Each lost reflection is a secret the river keeps, and once it decides, nothing can escape. No one knows for sure what happens when the river decides you no longer deserve your reflection. Some say they've heard silent screams reflected in the water. Others simply disappeared without a trace. And you? Would you dare look at your own image knowing that at any moment, the river could snatch it away, taking not only the reflection but something deeper, impossible to recover? In the forgotten village on the riverbank, stories circulate like leaves carried by the current. The elders speak of vanishing reflections, whispers echoing on the water at dusk, and a silence that swallows courage. No one knows exactly when it began, but each tale points to the same pattern. Those who get too close to the river are never the same again. Some return with empty eyes, others simply vanish, leaving only treacherous ripples on its black, still surface. One night, a young man named Elias decided to face the river. Curious and skeptical, he approached the bank while the moon reflected his trembling face in the dark water. The silence seemed overwhelming, as if every breath could be heard by the river itself. Suddenly, his reflection hesitated, distorting as if it had a will of its own. A shiver ran down his spine. The water, calm and treacherous, seemed to observe him, as if pondering whether he deserved to remain whole, or if the river would finally take what belonged to him. Elias reached out his trembling hand, and the black surface of the river seemed to swallow the moonlight, rippling almost consciously. Each nearby reflection distorted, as if it had a will of its own, fleeing from itself. A subtle whisper ran along the bank, echoing his own voice with a twisted, hungry intonation. The cold gripped his bones, and something deep within him was pulled, as if the river desired more than his image. For a moment his gaze met the reflection, but it wasn't just his face. There was something watching, patient, waiting for the right moment. Elias took a step back, but the river seemed to expand before him as if its banks were malleable and his dominion absolute. The reflection in the water shimmered, and his own shadow seemed to detach itself, hovering over the black surface. A damp, ancient scent filled the air, imbued with secrets no one dared to tell. Every sound seemed amplified, every movement anticipated by the water, and he realized, with a chill down his spine, that the river didn't just want a glance. It demanded surrender, and Elias would soon feel the price of his curiosity. The wind died down, and the silence became almost suffocating, broken only by the faint whisper of the water. Elias leaned forward, mesmerized by the reflection that no longer exactly matched his features. Something within the surface writhed, absorbing his image as if the river were deciding what he could still be. A shiver ran through every muscle, and the cold became almost painful. He realized, too late, that looking was too dangerous. His very essence was beginning to drain into the dark, invisible, and unforgiving water. Elias tried to retreat, but it felt as if the ground had dissolved beneath his feet. The water now rippled gently, as if breathing, and his reflection shattered into fragments, each piece floating on the surface with a life of its own. A sharp chill ran down his spine, and a feeling of emptiness filled his chest. He realized he wasn't just standing before a river, but something ancient, conscious and hungry, ready to reclaim anything that dared to look at it. The next instant would decide if he would still be whole. If this interpretation is making you rethink this story, leave a comment below with your perspective. These videos are meant to provoke reflection, and I read all the comments. And if this type of content interests you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. The river seemed to pulse, each wave reflecting shadows that didn't belong to Elias. He stretched out his trembling hands, trying to grasp his own reflection, but the fragments drifted away, almost mocking his agony. A whisper crossed the bank, repeating his name in a distorted way as if the water held memories of all who had dared to look too closely. Fear gripped him, and he felt that the river wasn't just watching. It was choosing. deciding which part of Elias's soul would be the next to disappear forever. The water began to shimmer unnaturally, reflecting not only the moon but forgotten memories of those who had once come near. Elias felt images of other lives mingling with his reflection, faces of strangers who had never existed, and he realized that the river was devouring not only appearances but also fragments of memories and essence. Each heartbeat seemed amplified, and he knew that the line between his identity and the water was becoming irreversible. The shore now seemed distant, almost unreachable, and the river patiently awaited his complete surrender. Elias felt the weight of the water invade his thoughts, each memory being sucked away, each distorted feeling reflected on the black surface. The river seemed to understand ancient fears, anticipating every gesture, every hesitation. He tried to scream, but his voice was lost in the whisper rising from the dark bed, a melody that seemed to mold his own essence. The reflection now showed not only him, but a shadow of everything that had been taken before, and the young man realized that the river would spare nothing that dared to keep it. The cold intensified, penetrating every fiber of Elias's body, and he felt the water slowly rise above his ankles, as if he were being pulled into a silent void. Fragments of his reflection writhed, floating in impossible patterns, while the river's whisper grew louder, filling his mind with echoes of faces he had never known. Every impulse to flee seemed futile. Every step toward the bank pushed him further away, and he understood, terrified, that the river not only reflected but decided who could still exist. Elias felt the water enveloping his knees, then his waist, each movement becoming heavier as if the river had turned to concrete. The fragmented reflection now moved with a will of its own, showing versions of him he would never recognize. A whisper echoed so close it seemed to come from inside his head, repeating secrets he had never told. Fear turned to panic. He realized the river not only stole reflections, but captured identities, transforming curiosity into utter regret, a liquid prison with no way out. The river seemed to stretch endlessly, swallowing the bank, and Elias felt his body being pulled down, every muscle resisting in vain. The reflection no longer matched him. It showed only fragments of souls the river had consumed before, echoes of forgotten lives. Every attempt to grasp something that was his resulted in pain, and the whisper of the water now transformed into ancient, hungry voices, reminding him that no curiosity had survived there. The young man understood, terrified that the river demanded more than the image, it wanted the whole essence. Elias felt the last piece of himself being pulled into the water, his reflection disappearing like smoke into the darkness. The river remained calm, indifferent, reflecting only the moon and nothing else. No cries, no trace of struggle. Anyone looking at the surface would see only silence, but within the water, Elias's essence mingled with others, imprisoned forever. The river does not return what it takes. It collects fragments of all who dared to confront their own image, reminding them that curiosity can cost more than life. If you enjoyed this approach and want to continue exploring stories that are almost never told this way, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And now, click on the video that's appearing on the screen. It directly complements what you just watched and may completely change the way you see this story.